Hello, I'm Cassie, and today I remembered to say my name at the beginning of the video. Okay, so it is officially summer. It's almost June. Well, it's the middle of May, which is summer. It's very hot outside, and lately I've been reading a lot of books that have to do with amusement parks or take place in settings that are amusement parks. This is something that I really love in like fiction or in like media in general, like in movies, in TV shows. I just love carnivals and I love circuses and I love amusement parks so much, especially when there's like an element of horror or creepiness to it. It just amps it up for me. Like, it's what's better than roller coasters? Roller coasters and blood, right? Or am I alone in that? If I am, you're probably not gonna like this video. So obviously I'm in a hotel room and I have decided to film as many videos as possible so I can put them up and you don't have to see me sitting in my car. In brainstorming ideas, I got the idea to share the amusement park or carnival or circus related books that I have loved and would recommend. Pretty much all of these have like a horror element to them, so if that's not your jam, click away or mute me and stay here and let me get the views. Okay, so I have seven recommendations, so let's get... Why is this so hard for me to say? I have 7 recommendations, so let's get started. All right, so the first book on my list of recommended amusement park related books is Fantasticland, and this is a book that I've recommended so many times. I have gotten so many people to read this. I love this book. It's one of my favorites. This is a book about an amusement park in Florida called Fantasticland. As you'll notice, a lot of these books are called the actual place that they are. And there's a hurricane that hits. And although there are precautions in place and there's like a plan for the safety of the people, something goes wrong. And basically all the people that stay behind in that amusement park break off into little factions. And it kind of feels like a Lord of the Flies situation, but in an amusement park instead of on an island, which Lord of the Flies is one of my favorite books that I read when I was like younger. So having anything that's kind of like reminiscent of that is always going to be up my alley. And I love this book. Like, this book is unexpectedly impactful for me considering it's told from the perspective of different interviews. So if you've read World War Z or books that are kind of like told from different perspectives that switch every single chapter, you'll know what I mean when I say that about this one. And usually I don't really like that in a book. Me personally, like, that's just not for me. I prefer like it to be completely like a novel. But here I loved it so much because it's so interesting the way that the author chose to deliver the different points of view. It's so impactful when you realize that something that you thought happened from one person's perspective was actually something completely different from somebody else's. And I really love that about it. I think it's also so interesting to see, or even like fictionalized, how society and people who are civilized can break down so quickly if the circumstances were changed or if they're put into a bad situation. The book basically asks, like, if you put a bunch of teenagers together in an amusement park and cut them off from society and take away their phones and internet access, like, what will happen? And it's wild. Like, there are archers, there's brain splatters. Like, I don't want to say too much, but there's a lot of stuff that happens, and I recommend this book so highly. It is one of my favorite books, again, and I love it. It deserves to be the first book I mention here, and this list is in no particular order, just to be clear, but when I started this list, immediately I was like, Fantasticland, like, I have to put that here at the top, so yeah. Okay, and then next we have The Merry Dredgers, which I actually just recently read, and this was actually a very recent release. It came out this month when I'm filming this. So this is about a girl whose sister gets into an accident, and when she hears from her sister, she finds out that she's basically in a cult. That cult resides in this abandoned amusement park, and the cult has something to do with her sister getting hurt or her sister's accident. So she's like, I have to solve this. I have to figure out who did this. I have to avenge my sister and get to the bottom of this. So she infiltrates the cult and shenanigans ensue. I really liked this one. I really like books with sisterly bonds. I really, really, really loved the author's description of the amusement park itself. There were so many amazing bits where there were just descriptions of what the place looked like, and I loved those so much because it made me want to draw these places. There's like a big heavy focus on goblins in this amusement park, and I loved that as well because it makes it so creepy, you know? Like, I feel like a lot of people just do clowns as like their first thing, and they're gonna be clowns, it's fine. I like clowns, it's whatever. I mean, the scary ones scare me, but the normal ones are fine. But to have goblins in it is like a little bit more fantasy-esque, and the book itself feels very dreamlike, and there are a decent amount of dream sequences as well. So I don't know, I think it just blended together really well, and I really liked it, and it definitely deserves to be read. And it's definitely something you should put on your radar if you haven't heard about it because it's such a new release. So up next I have Cirque Berserk, which I read this a couple of years ago, and I love this. This is a novella, so it's pretty short too. It's about like this urban legend that this group of friends is going to investigate to see if they can like find any ghosts or anything like that, because something terrible happened, like a massacre. And so they're going back as like their final class, like field trip sort of thing all together. And this book has a twist that I was not expecting. And it also has a lot of little details in it that really stuck with me, like specific kind of gum one of the characters chewed a lot, or there are just some scenes as well, like with roller skates and like, I don't know, weapons that were just really cool. I really think this one could be made into a movie. I would love to watch it. And this is good if you like books with twists, although I don't want to say too much about that because I feel like when you tell people there's a twist going into something, then they have really high expectations, which makes the twist maybe less impactful. But yeah, here we are. Then we have Joyland, which I think a lot of people have read this. It's Stephen King, so a lot of people know about it. But it is something that I like to recommend because, especially for people who don't super like horror, like they don't like their books to be that dark. Like they're okay with like kind of horror-y elements, but like not overly like super spooky scary. So I would recommend this one for that because it is a little bit more like a detective story, like this kid's trying to figure out what happened, and it also is very character driven because it has so much to do with the actual main character and then like a woman that he meets and like her kid. And it's not really like a ghost story, like a spooky sort of ghost story. I mean, again, there are horror elements to it, but yeah, this isn't one that I'd be like, yeah, read this in the dark and you'll be totally terrified, you know? So had to include it on the list. This is also like a perfect one to read in the summertime because it takes place in the summer, but again, like the vibes of Carnival Amusement Park in the summer, it's just so good, so perfect. If you have cotton candy while you're reading it, that's even better. Maybe a hot dog? I don't know. What do they have at the fair? Circus food? Funnel cake? Kind of making myself hungry. Then we have Mouthful of Ashes, and this one's pretty cool because this is actually like a tribute or homage or I don't know, like inspired by The Lost Boys. So if you like that movie and you like vampires, I think you'll love this one. Even if you haven't seen the movie, I think this one's good because this one basically is very similar to the movie. I mean, there's a queer subplot, like there's really cool stuff that is not in the movie, and the characters are obviously different and stuff, but overall, like there are a lot of similarities. So if you've seen the movie, you'll understand the inspiration, but if you have not seen the movie, you'll still enjoy this as like a standalone thing. Although again, if you like the movie, there are like some nods and things that I think you will specifically appreciate. Well, I mean that I did, so yeah, I don't know. I really like this one. I also love the cover of this one. Like it's so cool. Like this looks so creepy. It looks like a cool like vampire movie cover. I just love it. And then last is the most recent one that I've actually read, and I just finished this one for a 24-hour readathon, and that was Wonderland. And this is about an amusement park called Wonderland, and it's basically like the reason that the town that it's in is thriving. So because of that, a lot of the townsfolk and a lot of the people that are involved, including the police force, overlook a lot of the weird stuff and bad stuff that happens at the amusement park. Until a new police lady comes, and she's the main character, and she's like, no, we're not going to cover this anymore. We have to figure out what's going on. We're going to uncover the bad stuff and clean it all out. Which is entertaining. It was fun. There weren't as many descriptions of like amusement park stuff and settings in this one, but basically the whole thing does take place in an amusement park. It's just more so focused on like the crime. So it still has the vibes of like a theme park, but it doesn't exactly have too much of it, not as much as some of the others on this list. So yeah, still included though because it does mention like the Wonder Wheel that they have and different things like that, especially like this one. The other one I mentioned, like not as many clown things, but this one has a lot of clown things in it. Yeah. Okay, so those are 7 books that I would recommend that have to do with like amusement parks or take place in an amusement park. I really like a lot of these. They're not all like 5 stars for me, but I didn't give any of them anything less than like a 4, I believe, maybe 3.5. So I would highly recommend them, especially because your mileage may vary. You might really like something that I didn't super love, and if you hate any of these, don't blame me because that's not my fault. Yeah, so if you've read any of these, please let me know, especially if you've read Fantasticland, because I just want to talk about that one to more people. I really love it. I'm probably going to reread it soon. I think it would be a good time to do that. I've already read it like 4 times, so yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.